Hey guys, so BuzzFeed put out an article saying kids are quoting Trump to bully their classmates and teachers don't know what to do about it. And we thought that Amir and I would talk about this a little bit. So first, to give you a little bit of context about this story. So there are no quantitative studies examining the election's impact on school bullying, but BuzzFeed News conducted the first large-scale nationwide analysis of bullying incidents linked to Trump, reviewing hundreds of reports submitted to the Documenting Hate Project, a database of tips about hate crimes and bias incidents set up by ProPublica and shared with other news organizations. And BuzzFeed News reviewed every alleged incident from early October to late May, so it's pretty updated. The reports spanned from 149 schools. Of those schools, BuzzFeed News was able to follow up on 54 cases. So this is a news reporting out of 54 cases through interviews, public statements, and from other school officials. However, there were 95 other tips that they were not able to follow up on. And just to sort of sum up what this article goes into, and there, we'll post a link to make sure you guys can check it out. And they go over a number of different instances and examples. But one teacher says, "This is my 21st year in education and I've never seen a situation like this before," said Brent Emmons, principal of Hood River Middle School in Oregon. "It's a delicate tightrope to walk. It's not my role to tell people how to think about political policies, but it is my role to make sure every kid feels safe at school." So ultimately what this news article is sort of asking the question is, if the president can say it, why can't my kids say it at school? So there are examples of kids saying, build the wall, or just going up to a student of a different race or someone that they just disagree with and bullying them by just yelling the name Trump, just invoking the president's name. So this is a pretty crazy story. And Amir, you were the one that sent this to me to cover. So I want to know, what was your take on this? What was really interesting to you about this report?
It's just not surprising to me.
Okay.
I mean, obviously we didn't have such a crazy political environment when we were growing up, but when there were things in popular culture, especially like things that your parents are talking about day and night, like last year everyone was talking about the election. So of course little kids, elementary students, middle schoolers, even high schoolers, of course, they're gonna hear about these things. And it just didn't come as a shock to me that this is going on.
Yeah, and that they would have this reaction.
Yeah.
I think to that point, actually, the president, and I want to stay sort of as apolitical as I can when talking about this, but this current president is not, I would say, the most rhetorically gifted president or candidate that we've seen in recent years, which has made him, as a candidate, very accessible to people from all walks of life. And that's part of why he got elected.
He's not a politician.
He's not a politician. Yeah. So he doesn't speak about things in using big words. That's kind of his own term too. I use big words, I have the best words, but if you're using the word big to say, to size or volume, I don't know. He's not a really articulate guy. He's just not. But I think that makes him very accessible to a younger generation because they can watch his speeches and understand everything that he's saying about policy. It's easy to agree with. It's easy to understand where he's coming from. He's saying, build the wall, we want to keep the bad guys out. A kid, a 12-year-old is gonna understand that. When you have Barack Obama talking about the nuances of immigration, a kid just sort of zones out. To that point, actually, there was another English teacher in Spokane Valley, Washington, who says, quote, "We talk about Bush, Obama, McCain, et cetera, and the kids would just nod their heads. But as the campaign heated up last year, I started to notice a pretty significant change among my kids. They would say things that I had never heard kids in my school district say, far more vitriolic." And that, I just think, comes as a consequence of who Trump sort of was as a candidate. Yeah. Hate him or love him, he definitely on Twitter, in his speeches, if he would come after his opponents. It's part of why he won the election. And I think that the language that he was using was easy for kids to tap into, especially when you're younger. You have these feelings of winner and loser. Are you cool or are you not? Popular, unpopular, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and
he was able to engage with them.
And
at
the
that
media
level.
did a really poor job of covering it. They covered it too much, or like they didn't do a good job of explaining that this is not good to talk like this. They just put it out there for everyone to consume and then put more of it out there.
Yeah, and I think furthermore, he really was never held accountable in the campaign for his hurtful words.
Yeah.
Because people would sort of chalk it up to, it's a campaign, I just wanna make America great again. You can say whatever you want if your end intention is good.
Yeah.
So, maybe someone slighted someone at school, and then you see the most powerful person in the world. If you feel a little bit powerless, you're gonna come after them with the same sort of power that you see from the highest office in this country. So again, I have to agree with you.
I'm trying to think like back, anything similar happening when I grew up, and I actually do remember one thing. So in the 2004 election, I was super for John Kerry back then when Bush was running for his second term. And I remember we would get into playful fights at school. Because like most of my friends were Republican back then. We were like kids, we were like 14, 15 years old. And they would come and yell at me, flip flop, flip flop. Because that was like the big buzzword back then, that John Kerry was a huge flip flopper. Which is kind of funny today because every politician flip flops on everything.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's that, and now, so that's just back then. Take what's going on today. Of course, kids are going to be using these terms to bully other kids, and it's sad, and it's really up to the parents to kind of educate their kids to have civil discourse. And unfortunately, we've started to lose that ability of civility amongst each other.
Right. Yeah. I also think that parents and teachers alike, they're just in such a tough spot though, because you have the leader of this country really does set the tone for how we conduct ourselves, and what a difficult position to be put in of just because this person said this. And that is who our country elected, you still can't. And then the follow-up question is why? If Donald Trump can do it, why can't I?
Yeah,
and then I guess the retort would be, well, he's the president, he can do whatever he wants. But then that gets into really dangerous territory of we're not holding the president accountable. Just once you get that office, you sort of surrender all accountability. I don't think that's quite accurate either.
It would be really helpful that if with Trump, like, between all of his tweeting and everything, maybe he would tweet about how like this is unacceptable behavior to the country. Like you can't be like using my name like this to bully people. That's not what this is about.
But I can use my name to.
Yeah, I don't know. What's the answer? Like, what do you do?
So yeah, I think that's.
This isn't going to go away because even in this article they talk about parents who are defending their kids that are doing this.
Because it comes from home as well.
It's a loss of freaking morality and civility. That's like at the most basic level.
Do you think that if you were in school today, do you think your experience would be worse than it was?
Yeah, probably. Depending on like where I'm going to school.
If you were just like say that you were back in high school in Michigan.
Yeah, of course.
You think so?
Yeah, Michigan's like Ann Arbor is super.
To think about.
It's super liberal, but it comes out and like I remember when the movie 300 came out. One of my like acquaintances in the middle of the hall, he kicked me in my chest and said, "This is Sparta," because like they're the Persians. It's like the Persians in that, and it was like really funny to them back then.
Yeah.
And it's like I laughed. I thought it was funny because it's kind of funny when you think about it.
Yeah. Well, it's your friend.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a bully came up to you.
Yeah, but then like it was like in the air. Like people would be like talking shit about like Persians back then. In my school, because I was like the token Persian. Yeah,
and I'm hearing also some examples from this article about people writing quotes like "build that wall" in their yearbooks, which is, everyone's gonna have some cringy stuff.
You need to have some empathy, man. Like when you say that, like yeah, the president says that. What's so racist about it? People are feeling terrified and terrorized by that.
No, I think it does come down to.
And you should consider that.
Well, what I was gonna say is I think it does absolutely come down to empathy, and that is sort of a muscle that I haven't seen this country flex of late, which is disheartening. But also what I was gonna say on a lighter note, your yearbook quotes are gonna be cringy enough as it is. I had a Taylor Swift quote in mine, and it was a great quote. It wasn't a song, it was just a quote that I found of hers on like, think quotes or something.com that was, if you're lucky enough to be different, don't ever change. Like, and so basically don't, just use a cringy quote. Don't use a hateful quote. It's gonna be bad enough as it is looking back. I don't know, I don't know what to make of this. I don't really know if there's any solution, but we wanna talk about it with you guys in the comment section below. Feel free to check out the BuzzFeed article, read through some of the examples and read through the study, and we'll see you next time on Pop Trigger.